In this video, we are going to find percentage of a certain number. And I'm actually going to do this in two different ways. I'm going to be doing the values if I converted them percentages into a decimal, and then I'm going to do the values if I converted the percentages into fractions. So the first thing I'm going to do is converting the percentages into a decimal. So if that's not the method that works for you, then skip ahead to the video till you start seeing the red writing where we convert the percentages into a fraction and do the exact same problems. So what I'm doing now is I'm remembering that every time we see the word of, it typically means multiplication. So what this is saying is 30% of 156. But we're doing the one where we're converting a percentage into a decimal. So I'm going to say 30% is 0.30. And then so we're going to multiply 156 times 0.30. And again, if you don't remember to do it, if you don't have a calculator on hand, it's 0.30 or 0.3. You're simply going to multiply through. So there's 18, carry the 1, we have 6, and then carry another 1. So we have 4, 4, 6, 8, and then we have 1 decimal point, so we're going to put 1 decimal point in there. The next problem, I have 3.5%, it's 3.5, but the same thing. So when we convert it into a decimal, remember we moved the decimal twice, so it's 0.035% times 1,000. So you can set up again the multiplication, or remember, anytime we multiply something times 1,000, we basically are just moving the decimal 1, 2, 3, in that direction, and now that becomes 35. In this case, now we're looking for the mystery number, so 35 is equal to some number times 28. So in order to solve for x, I divide both sides by 28. So I have x is equal to 35 over 28. Now we can help ourselves out and say, oh, that's a improper fraction, or I can reduce it a little bit. So if I divide both top and bottom by 7, I have 5 over 4. So when I do that to convert it into a percent, I have to say, well, 5 goes into 4, and doing the good old long division. Excuse me, 4 goes into 5. I wrote that wrong. 4 goes into 5 once. 1 times 4 is 4. Doing the good old division with decimals, keeping the decimal place well in hand. So this is 8, this is 20, and so this is 5. And again, the decimal comes straight up. So this is 1.25, but remember that's as a decimal. And when we're converting that into a percentage, we have to move it in the direction at the right. So it's 125% of 128. In this case, we've got 110 is equal to 0.05. Again, that's my decimal as a fraction, or excuse me, my percent as a decimal. And then we're going to divide both sides by 0.05. 0.05. So we have 0.05 into 110. And remembering how to do decimal division, we can't divide a decimal, so I move it 2 spaces to get this into be a whole number. So if you move this 2 spaces, you also have to move this 2 spaces. So we have 5 into 11,000. So 5 goes in each time. And you can do the long division twice. And then that goes in twice. And then we have zeros finishing it out. So this is 2,200. Then this last one, we're going to, again, this is 75 is equal to a value times 40. And we're dividing both sides by 40. We can reduce our fractions, dividing top and bottom by 5 just a little bit. So we have x is equal to, dividing top and bottom by 5, we have 15 over 8. And this is a top-heavy problem or an improper fraction, so this better be a number greater than 1 or a percent greater than 100%. So we have 8 goes into 15. 8 goes into 15 once. Once. And then it goes 8. So then we have 7, and then we've got to carry out the decimals. And if you don't remember how to do decimal division, you can definitely ask me. 8 goes into 78 times. We have 64. Subtract, bring the next 0 down. 8 goes into 67 times. That's 56. We subtract, oops, I went off the page just a little bit. Bring the next number down. 8 goes into 45 times. And then we bring the decimal straight up. But remember, this is the decimal equivalent. So we need to move the decimal twice in order to get it to be 187.5%. So the second half of this video, I'm going to do the exact same problems, but I'm going to do it by converting my percentages into fractions. So the same thing, this is still going to be multiplying. So it's 30 per 100 multiplied by 156. And doing the fraction multiplication, we can reduce down. So 2 will go into, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we can reduce, sorry, the 30 over 100, I now have 3 over 10. And this is now 156 over 1. So 2 will go in here 5 times. 2 will go in here 78 times. When you multiply this through, you get 234 over 5, or as an improper fraction, that's 46 4/5. Here we have 3.5 per 100, that's what percent means, and we're going to multiply it again, of times 1,000. And then here, even before I move this into an improper fraction, this is 100 goes in here once, 100 goes in here 10 times. So I have 3 1/2 multiplied by 10, or converting this into an improper fraction, I have 7 halves multiplied by 10 over 1, which becomes 70 over 2, or just 35. Now this one is 35 equals some number times 28. So I'm going to divide both sides by 28 to get this number by itself. And this reduces down, so I can divide both top and bottom by 7. So this is 5, I said 5, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is 5 over 4, which is x. That's the same as 1.25 if we needed to help convert it, because this is the right answer, but it's not in percentage form. And this is definitely not just 1%. We have to move it so that it is 125%. Here again, we have 110 is equal to 5%, so I'm converting it into a fraction, times x. And when we divide both sides by the 5 over 100, divide this by 5 over 100, this cancels out or becomes 1. So I have 110 over 1 divided by 5 over 100. So we skip the first, we flip the second, and then we multiply. And when you take care of the multiplication, x becomes 2200. Now the final one again, we have 75 is equal to some value times 40, and I'm going to divide both sides by 40 to get x by itself. So over this way, that means that 70 over 40 can divide both top and bottom by 5, so this is 15 over 8. Scroll this a little bit. And then dividing that out, turning it into a decimal, this is 1.875. And we have to convert it into a percent. If I have a percentage and I'm using fractions, if I haven't dealt with 100 or moving the decimal, I have to now. And again, moving this into 187.5%.